Good morning to listeners.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. What was your reaction to the President's address?
I thought it was a very sober speech. In view of some of the tensions that were there, we really needed a speech which reassures both ANC member and the country that things are fine. Where the difficulties were aware, we'll do something about it, but there's no need for panic. And I think for me that was very helpful, just to reassure South Africans that things are fine.
Now, in terms of developing a gender balance and a fair gender representation, are we achieving that in terms of what was said by the President yesterday? Are you comforted that we're moving in the right direction?
We've made lots of progress as the ruling party in terms of quotas, representation of women in parliament, in government, also in ANC structures. I mean, it's policy that 50% of people on every ANC structure must be women. What our challenge is now is really translating those numbers into real change in women's lives. We have sponsored a resolution which we want discussed in all other commissions, which we think will help us to really raise the bar and move to another level, because that's where I think the challenge is.
In terms of representation in the top six and what is mooted as potential top six going forward, are you satisfied with the way things are looking?
Not quite. As a women's league, we had put 3 women, 3 men, but this is an ANC conference. The numbers are with ANC branches, so if you get outvoted, you have to accept it. It's an ANC conference, not the Women's League conference.
The ANC branches are not supporting this resolution about 50-50?
No, the 50-50 resolution is not on any part of the structure. It says the entire structure must have 50% of representation. So it does not necessarily identify top 6 as a structure. So we are confident that when the final list comes, there'll be half the number will be women, half the number will be men.
Wouldn't it be ideal, though, in your view, when you look at it, wouldn't it be ideal to have 50% representation in the top 6? Isn't it something that as Women's League you feel strongly about?
Sure, that's why we had actually in our first list, we had put 3 women just to make sure that indeed, if possible, we can get at least half the women in the top 6 and then also get half the women in the additional members. But as I say, it's an ANC member. What counts is the numbers that come from ANC branches.
Talking about just policy matters to come up, what for you as the Women's League are critical issues that affect the lives of women in this country that need to be looked into in significant detail at this conference to ensure that going forward they are properly addressed?
I think the economic empowerment of women and the marginalization of women from the economy. For me, the best thing that I think we could achieve as a country, those women who are selling the streets, it means those are entrepreneurs who have a get up and go. If we could really find a way of empowering those women who really already had started themselves up and put them in the mainstream of the economy. So for me, the biggest issues around the mainstreaming of women in the economy, but also empowering them economically so that they can be able to look after themselves. They're not really having the survival economy that they're involved in.
So the Women's League proposals in terms of that empowerment are what? What should be done to get those women into that kind of place?
We think we've made a number of proposals, for instance, in terms of even government contracts, to say there are contracts that ordinary women can really participate and it will change their lives. For instance, linen in hospitals. We train women, then they supply. So that we have a deliberate effort to identify areas where, as government, we can support women. For instance, the school nutrition. There are lots of things that women can do to participate in the school nutrition. So it's doesn't go to tender and then it's everybody rushing for it. But it's earmarked for women so that women cooperatives are supported and are enabled to really get out of the margins of the economy.
Is there a favorable look, a favorable positioning of that, or are you still needing to consolidate support around those visions?
At the policy conference, we raised it and it was accepted as proposals to this conference. So I'm quite confident that we will be able to get it. But at the policy conference, we had tabled it as a proposal and it was accepted as a recommendation to this conference.
Yeah. Just in terms of the nominations processes, are you satisfied where things are from what has been put on the table from the branches, or do you think that the ANC Women's League need to be much more stronger in the branches to do much more work there?
I think as Women's League, we fought our battle. As a Women's League, what we did first, before we even got into the battle, was to develop a list of women, strong women, and lobby its ANC branches. And if you look at the final product, you see that the majority of women that we campaigned for are going to be in the ballot. So we did our bit of homework. We failed to get the 3 people on top, but with additional members, we really managed to identify very strong women in the league, and they are on the ballot, and I'm sure they're going to go through.
Yeah. There's a remark, Minister, that you made last week about not being feminists. What does that mean?
No, what I'm saying as a women's league, it's not our work to always be. We are a gender structure where we really look at the balance between men and women. We get consent, for instance, when boys slack back, because we know it will create problems even for society if boys are not empowered. But we also, because women indeed are left behind, and that's why we emphasize on women. So our gender structure, we are not like pushing for women's issue at all costs against anything. We really want a balance between the development of men and women.
Does this mean you reject the view of feminists?
No, not quite. There are feminists in the Women's League, but we're saying it's a good balance, because the feminists will definitely push hard for women, but you need also people who are not necessarily feminists who will try to tone down the push for just women.
Yeah. When you look at this conference, Minister, do you feel that the cause of women in South Africa, on the back of the work of the ANC Women's League, will be enhanced, or is it just going to be business as usual? Sure, we've got a bit of the numbers. Sure, there's a bit of consolidation around. Let's improve the lot of women, but we will continue the way we've been continuing.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the resolution that we had tabled at the policy conference, we're strengthening it now after the policy conference. We had a number of consultations. If that goes through, I'm definite that it will change the lives of women.
Okay. Thank you very much. Angie Motshekga is president of the ANC Women's League, joining us, giving us a perspective, their reaction first to President Zuma's address yesterday, who presented, of course, as you know, the ANC's political report here at the 53rd National Conference of the ANC. Now,